Aye.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. Okay, so we are recording now. I'll do a quick intro. This is Brian Courtney with Short Bus Debate Club. As always, Darren Jolly's across the table from me.
Aye.
And this week we have a special guest or guests, the Green Party, and you guys are all co-chairs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've got Margaret, Craig, and Joe, all from the Green Party on the show to talk about why a vote for a third party is not a wasted vote. So what?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So just generally speaking, what's the main idea behind the party's platform? Just very, very generally.
Well, I would say ecological justice. We can't do anything else until we get our climate catastrophe under control in some way. And the Green Party has prioritized that since its inception.
That
I'll
is
add,
fair.
Yeah, I'll add a little on that too and expand. I mean, I've been a political kind of like follower since I was like 5, 6 years old. My grandmother had me watch all the little debates and stuff growing up and becoming more aware of different issues. And honestly, I'd never truly felt home with the Democratic Party. And being in New Jersey, there's a lot of machine politics. We all probably have that in our states. In different ways and capacities. So I've seen how people that actually stood for everyday working class citizens get, locked out or boxed out. And it took a while, but I finally came aboard after 2016, and I've been here since, just organizing in my state, New Jersey, and obviously now nationally.
I'm glad you're doing something in New Jersey. I was out there for a couple of months in, 2003, and I didn't see an animal the entire time I was there. Apparently.
We got a few animals in my town.
Not a squirrel.
Critters out there too.
No, I was just messing around. But
I'd like to add one other E word, if I could.
Sure.
Egalitarianism. I think we're the party that gets closest to striving for egalitarianism, where we're looking at trying to connect, as Margaret said, like ecologies together with society, and how bad I feel like the status quo is right now. It doesn't feel like with the status quo egalitarianism is possible, but the Green Party is, it's international, and there's counterparts of us that we could listen to in other countries, and we already have policies to try and put everything back into like a better balance or sustainable place or homeostasis. And I don't think you get that when you come across any other party. And I've been looking at politics also, like Craig, since I was a kid. And in 2000, I saw how there's just a lot of misinformation out there, but the Green Party values information and truth. So with that, I feel that we're the closest to egalitarianism.
Well, I really like the Green Party because I think, at least, from what is said on the website and from what I've heard from other candidates, is there's an equality that seems to be built into the Green Party that other parties don't have. It doesn't seem like it's built from the top down, or even the bottom up. Well, I guess it kind of is from the bottom up, but I mean, it's everybody is an equal. It's not based on this is my title, so you need to pay me the proper respect. It's this is what we need to do. How can we get it done, sort of thing. Am I right?
If I could broadly characterize everyone in the party, we are generally the kind of people who see a problem that needs to be fixed and then volunteer to fix it. That's we are, as a group. And so in this case, it happens to be climate justice and the other planks of our platform. But I think that's broadly true. And I think that if you're the kind of person who is done sitting on the sidelines and you want to make a difference, you can't do that in the corporate parties. You're just a cog, you're a donation person. In the third parties, your actual time, your presence is not just valuable, but you can be a minority person like myself and rise to what ostensibly is leadership in the party, where people value your opinions and you get to shape policy and form a political party which is expressive of your views and values. You can't do that in the other parties. And so I think third parties in general are great for that reason, but the Green Party obviously is the best of them because we advocate for the things that are pressing upon us as a populace at the moment.
Yeah, I think that was a good answer. So the next question is a little bit more complicated, and so if you need to take a breath like you told me to do, then I'm okay with that. But so if you had to and could resolve the following issues, which would you take care of first and which would be last? Social security, the environment, education, healthcare, foreign policy, and the U.S. economy. And
I go first.
yeah, that's fine.
So I think we got to look at this in different ways. I think you got to look at it as a political party and what the political party can educate on it and elevate. And then, like, magically, if we were elected to some sort of position of office. So some of us have run for office. Margaret has run for office. I forget, Joey, if you've run for office. You have too. Myself.
Yep.
So we've all run for office for different reasons, and some people love to focus on major issues and elevate those issues through that. And then local office too. But also, if I was magically the president and using executive power and what we can do. But I would say personally, it always is going to be healthcare. I'm totally for improved Medicare for all. If I was president, I would do everything I can day one, sign any executive order, give me a pen, I'll do whatever I need to, because I've dealt with a lot of this on a personal level. My grandmother had cancer and emphysema. My mom is dealing with cancer again now. We actually just picked her up. She had a lobectomy for her lung, and knock on wood, she's home now resting. So that would be number one as my priority. I hate to say I hate to rank these, but I think more awareness of education and foreign policy. Foreign policy is very important, but obviously our goal would probably be to limit some of these bases, redistribute some of the funding, prioritize that back here for a lot of the issues that we have to deal with here. It's not that I hate to rank them like that, but that's kind of how I would kind of approach it.
No, that's fair. And I know I hate to always talk about the hot button issues that everybody else is talking about, but I mean, me personally, the environment is incredibly important. I mean, if we don't do something soon, we're all going to die. I mean, the planet will still be here, but there won't be anybody on it.
You're not wrong about that at all. I think if I was not just the Green Party itself, right, but if I somehow, as the president, could exercise executive authority, I think one of the things you can do really, really directly is through executive authority ban further fossil fuel extraction permits restrict ones that are already in place, and cancel ones that haven't been started yet. Those are direct steps. You can take them right now, in day one, and stop what's going on. We can put a halt to further exploitation of our natural resources via timber mining and coal mining. Those are not ways to address our energy shortfalls. We really have to be serious about this. And I think that, obviously you can't, it's not a dictatorship. You can't decide everything that happens in the country, even as president. So your executive power is limited. But in those spaces, you must use it, and you must use it for the will and the benefit of the people. That's who has put you there. We all know the game now is corporate money gets people elected, right? The last election, one of the losers spent $1 billion and lost. So, it's hard to see how we, the people, are ever going to be represented unless we can get behind a grassroots movement that represents all of us. And remember, this is the funny thing here. Only about 40% of the populace actually vote. So if we just split it up, that's 20% for the Republicans and 20% for the Dems. If the rest of the people who don't vote one time in their lives voted this election cycle, they would change the American electoral political landscape for the rest of history. And we can save our lives.
Sadly, our highest election was, I think, it was the Trump election, and 68.8% showed up to the polls, which I don't know if that was because they really wanted Biden or they were scared of Trump or a combination of the two, but whatever. Yeah, you're right. We need to get more people out there to vote, which hopefully this kind of dialogue will do something to that effect. You want to kick in any thoughts on the last question, Darren?
Well, the only thing that I don't want to be the party pooper, but like say for instance, like a foreign policy question, like the U.S. and the military-industrial complex, right? I hate to admit that I like. So I was listening to snippets of and I don't listen to Tucker Carlson very much, but he did that interview with Orban a couple of days ago, and oddly enough, Orban, who is not anybody that I really want to be taking my cues from either, he said Tucker kept asking him about certain things with regards to Ukraine, and like how it would end, like what, and Orban kept bringing it back and saying, "What are you talking about? You guys have been driving the dialectic forward." Well, he didn't say, he would never say dialectic, but you've been driving the sort of like the thrust for war from the beginning, the middle, and the end. All that you'd have to do is stop providing like the capabilities to the Ukrainian people, and it would be over tomorrow. It would be done, right? So like, I hear all these things, and I want all these things, and obviously, like, we have to have a moment where like you all have suggested, where we're more activated, we're more like I mean, just like on a personal level, I voted for Ralph Nader in 2000. I voted for Ralph Nader in 2004. I should have voted for Jill Stein in 2016. I'm embarrassed that I didn't. And of course, I voted for Howie Hawkins in 2020. But having said that, like, the people those of us that want to change the world will be going up against, they're murderers, they're killers. They not only do they make money, like, have they maintained a welfare state in the United States through a military-industrial complex for many, many, many generations now. So I guess my question is, how can we practice? I mean, of course, like, critical mass, like, people are sort of engaged, but like all this stuff that happened in the 60s when they were putting down the movements that were, the FBI, the CIA, like, and it's not like they went anywhere, and now they're now you have private institutions that are doing the same thing the CIA and the FBI were doing back then. I just, like, I want to see a way where these policy positions can get from here to there, but I just get nervous when I look at those different positions.
Well, that's a good concern to have, to be honest with you. Because if, let's say for the sake of discussion, staying within the realm of the framing of this question, which is one, we magically win the presidency and we have this power, okay? Well, executive authority only extends so far. Outside of that, it's Congress and the Senate who do this. And, they're probably not going to be completely flipped into like green majority Congresses and Senates. Mm-hmm. So they would not probably work with us as in the executive branch. And as a consequence, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that we would do if we were one of the corporate parties and we had the backing of an entire majority in Congress, let's say. So it does limit what you can do there. But I think there's real concrete policy actions that you can take from the Oval Office that really will curtail things. Most of these, I want to say, free gifts of money, because it's essentially what they are to Ukraine, should definitely halt. It turned out, and I don't want to kind of bring up a different issue here too much, but our country is suffering from a massive infrastructure deficit. We haven't built new stuff in decades and decades. It's crumbling around us. We have whole states on fire and cities devastated. Flint still doesn't have clean drinking water. We can spend that money at home here, fixing the things here. We, the people who pay these taxes and live here and deserve our government to represent us and fix the problems here. Spending our money overseas in some cases is good because we're helping other causes and good things. But in the cases of prolonging war, that's a complete disaster. I think we all recognize that the general context of the war is itself awful, and there's no good that can ever come of it. And it doesn't matter who started what or anything. The people who always suffer are the poor and the working class who can't flee. They're caught there, and they're just destroyed in it. Over and over again, and we see it a lot. The United States is culpable in this stuff, and we have to stop it. We have to end our culpability, stop being complicit in these activities in other countries, and really focus on, pardon my off-color language here a bit, but we really need to focus on our own shit here at home, and really stop wasting our attention and time and resources on places that we've caused the problem in. Most of these places aren't asking us to fix it. They're just asking us to leave and leave them alone.
And never feel bad about, we use a lot of off-color language, so.
Okay. Can I go on to this question?
Yeah, of course.
If you don't mind.
Please.
Thank you. So, I taking a breath, like you said. So I think that how you were raising that in the 60s or even the 50s, they were doing the FBI, the CIA, putting in Red Scares. And I mean, that's only one generation from my, self, because my parents were baby boomers. And America in itself is less than 300 years old compared to Rome. We're really young. And fortunately, people who did work in the CIA, who found, some sort of light afterwards, see, it needs to come out what happened, and people are talking about the wrongness that's happened. Where we see what's happening to Julian Assange, and I happen to think that that's a different take. But having someone who could, let's say, get elected into the White House, who didn't take any contributions from any corporations or special interests or lobbyists, and understand that we're in a mass extinction on this planet, and the fossil fuels don't deserve any more subsidies, and all of the fear-mongering against socialism and fear-mongering against. I've been hearing a lot of people actually recently say that. I won't even go into it. It's too weedy. But ultimately, I think that going in, personally, I think the number one issue would be the environment, because we do value eco-socialism. And eco-socialism shows standards for humans to basically get back into balance with the planet, and in and of itself also harboring good unionized jobs, education that provides people for those jobs, healthcare for everybody involved in those unions. The environment actually controls a lot of what would be going into our communities from the bottom up, and frontline communities would actually be cared for how they should be. We would not be focusing on. It's funny because we know that people use socialism in such a derogatory term in this country. And then, of course, we have the military-industrial complex. We also have huge policing that gets tons of money thrown at it. We have, but also what I think isn't really talked about that much is, and I call it the media-industrial complex. It's just the re-election industrial complex, where you basically have the mainstream media that gets job security every time it's the holiday season because they have election cycle coming right up to it. And that's like, forgot who just mentioned it, but the loser for the last election spent $1 billion. And that all went to job security for the media industry. That shouldn't just, go out the window. And Greens won't stand for that. We want reform in elections. We want standards that basically make democracies healthier, that have more voices come and be heard, not just from the special interests and the corporations, but real people who have family members who are sick and need help. So I just wanted to add that little piece over.
I think that
Piggyback on that one.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you elevate this ticket and we have this magical moment where we're finally going to get everybody on board to make this title shift, all we need is 5 to 10 congressional candidates. All we need is one senator, and honestly, that's the skill. That's the scales tipping, and towards what we need to do here. I think that's really just got to be imperative, and it's just obviously everybody's got to be on board and have the courage to realize that's all it's going to take. Over.
So I want to pivot into question number 3 out of this because it kind of ties into. So things are interesting right now with the Green Party. I mean, the next question is how do you put or how do you choose your candidates? But so obviously, I listened to one of your meetings from a few weeks ago, and I was very impressed that in an hour and 10 minutes. And I love Cornel West, but I heard Cornel West's name once. And I think that's important because you guys you individuals, you're all very, you're very process oriented when it comes to how you sort of go through your deliberations. At least it sounds there's a lot of consensus in the way that you negotiate that space. But so right now you have 2 major candidates for president that have announced, at least at this point in time. So in Randy Toller, right, and Cornel West. Is that there? That's all that's it. Major candidates anyway.
There's also Jasmine Sherman.
What's the next? What was the other one? I'm sorry.
Isn't that correct? Jasmine Sherman.
Jasmine Sherman has filed with a letter of intent to seek the Green Party presidential nomination as well.
Okay.
There is another person that just sent a letter in with intent as well. I'm actually going to see if I can pull that up while we talk. So hang on a sec here.
And there was I was seeing it listed major candidates and minor candidates. What's the distinction? At least that was what Wikipedia said. I mean, I don't know that. I don't think that Wikipedia is necessarily the best representation of anything ever, but.
Okay, so each state is different, and I don't know if that's relating to. So,
it was in the section. Yeah, it was in the section on when you people that are going for the 2024 presidential nomination.
So at least in the state of Colorado, they consider the major parties, Democrat and Republican, and then they have minor parties which are green.
They're talking about candidates.
No, I understand that, but I think it goes along with what Craig said, which is it varies from state to state because each Secretary of State is going to say whether or not they're major or minor. And I don't know if that's what he was talking about or not, but because I know in California it's a whole list of minors, and then Vermont and so on. Sorry, I didn't mean to answer for you, Craig.
No worries. No. See, that's why we're here, and that's why we have to have a conversation because there's a lot of people listening that are not aware.
Mhm.
But yes, each state is going to recognize this a little differently. I can attest in New Jersey. Basically, we're going to start petition filing in January, and basically, we put either Green Party New Jersey on our petition, and there's electors that'll back that petition. And then we file. Now, sometimes if we have to file ahead of our convention before our nominee is determined, we'll leave it with the name to be filled later. And that's how some states handle it. Other states are going to have an actual primary process. But yeah, there's going to be state nominating conventions all throughout, I guess, starting early next year.
So it's quite a process then.
It is. And it's very complicated because each state has different rules on how they do it and when they can do it. It's a complicated mess. But then, of course, that is outside of the states. The national has its own process, right? Once the states have done their own things and they have their delegates assigned to who they're going to vote for, the national party holds a presidential nominating convention, just like the other parties do, and then our delegates cast their votes for the candidates that their state parties voted for, and that's how the national party then ends up with the actual POTUS candidate or nominee, if you will. Okay. They have some steps that are mostly bureaucratic to go through at the national level. They have to send like a letter of intent. They have to answer a questionnaire. They have to go through some minimal fundraising efforts and green support. They have to gather a number of signatures to show that they have green support amongst green voters all across the country and that sort of thing. To be honest with you, it's a process which is designed to encourage candidates to run with us. Mm-hmm. We try to make it easy and open because we want people. We're not a party of the elite, right? We're all volunteers, and so we're not trying to make the entry barrier high to do this process. You have to be serious and you have to have a serious plan, but you don't necessarily have to have a lot of money. You just need support. And so I think this is a pretty good process we have. I recognize, though, that like for right now, the Democrats can say Joe Biden is our guy, and the Republicans maybe are saying, oh, Trump is our guy. And we, the Greens, can't say anyone is our person yet because we haven't gotten to that phase of things, and we don't select our candidate and offer them up. Here's the fiat choice. That's not how it works. And so I think for people online and trying to rally, they want to embrace, Dr. West as our presumptive nominee, but that's premature and from a lot of reasons, but also like technically inaccurate. We don't have a presumptive nominee yet. We have not even a single convention has been held, so no one has any real sense of it. That said, I think we could all agree that Dr. West is bringing a lot of visibility to the Green Party.
Oh my goodness! Wow, yeah,
hasn't ever happened before.
So when you talk about the committees and the delegation to finally choose the nominee, how? Well, I guess so. You said Biden is the Democrat guy and Trump might be the Republican guy. They submit their letter of intent, and then all of these votes go through. Does a certain state have more juice in the process than another state? Like, does California have more power over who is gonna, be the presidential nominee compared to, say, North Dakota?
Well, yes, I can try to answer that. So I'm just going to take it back just a hair. So, yeah, we have committees that determine how many delegates are assigned to each federally recognized Green Party. And there's some states that don't have chapters, so they actually don't have representation yet. And that's also a goal, is to work to get established and have every state have a Green Party representing them, and that's part of our job now, and that's also part of the intention behind all this. So it kind of goes hand in hand. I can speak as New Jersey because not only am I a steering co-chair for national, I'm actually a co-chair of Green Party of New Jersey. So we had 5 delegates assigned in 2020. And New Jersey, in our bylaws, we're not only a registered state where you can actually register green, kind of like a minor party status, but you can also pay dues and have representation because we have a lot of people that are supportive of the Green Party, but they don't want to affiliate with a political party because they have state jobs. And this happens a lot on like local levels. You'll see a lot of people, they'll stay independent and not technically register with a political party because obviously that can impact their employment. So we have people that will then affiliate with New Jersey and pay their dues, and then they're afforded obviously voting rights to nominate, and they come in and they'll vote. So we actually, in the middle of the pandemic in New Jersey, we held a virtual convention and we sent out virtual ballots that were verified by software, and those were all tabulated and that their votes counted. And then basically when we took our total of votes, we carved out through proportional representation to our delegates. So back then, Howie had earned, I believe, 4, and Dario Hunter was the other candidate, earned 1 of those delegates' votes. So that's just basically how New Jersey ran it. Every state's got a whole different, formats for their conventions, and obviously certain states like California will have a primary where they're actually going to be on a ballot, and that's great. Obviously, the goal would be to get to where we have a primary, but each state is so archaic in laws and stuff like that. Like New Jersey, you need to have 40 legislative candidates. You have to run in every district. You have to get 10% of the vote. You have to get a gubernatorial candidate get 10% of the vote, and then magically you are recognized as an official party in New Jersey. And that barrier is so hard to get. So that's just my state's example.
Wow, that is a tough row to hoe, I guess. I mean, because 10% for a gubernatorial candidate, and what was there, another like 4 things that you mentioned there?
40 legislative districts, so and there's 2 assembly representatives, so you have to have at least 1 representative run and get 10% in every district.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. They like to make it tough for you guys, don't they? And I don't mean just the Green parties. I mean like third parties in general.
There's also third parties. Like New York, Governor Cuomo pushed real third parties off of the ballot 2020. However, he kept Working Families Party, which basically just rubber stamps Democrats, and also the current Conservative Party, which rubber stamps Republicans, because the way now to meet the requirement to get ballot access in New York State is you have to get, I believe it's if you're off ballot access, you have to collect 40,000 petition signatures, but the Democrats are going to challenge you, so you actually have to get 80,000 petition signatures. And then they moved it from every 4 years of getting over, I think, 5% of the vote to now every 2 years on a statewide election getting over 5% of the vote.
And Joey,
all the working family parties and the conservative parties have to do is just put on, whoever's running for the, the Republican or the Democratic line there. So it's not actually a third party. It's just, sheep, a wolf in sheep's clothing party.
Yeah, because they just endorse, like you said.
Yeah. They use opportunity to ballots.
So this next question is kind of along the same lines as question number 3. And obviously you guys do have a steering committee because you are that steering committee. But my question is, how much do you actually steer these candidates? How much do they have to follow the party line? What can they say? What can't they say? Are they allowed to just kind of, do what they want once they get the nomination? And I know I didn't mean to make it sound like, just willy-nilly, but I'm just trying to get a better idea if you guys are just nefarious puppet masters pulling strings.
No, I'm definitely not nefarious. So no, we don't actually steer the candidate campaigns at all. In fact, we have a conflict of interest policy. You can't be on the steering committee and be volunteering and working in the campaign. Those are separate things. So what we steer instead is the national party, and it's moving through, like, adopting platform amendments and advocating our policies in the world at large. So we're removed from the candidates' campaigns altogether. Like, they run their own thing. We obviously participate in a symbiotic manner, if you will, once they become our nominee, and we help and promote the campaign in that way. But as the steering committee, we're not in the campaigns. We're just the steering committee of the national party. And in fact, there are 9 people total, 7 steering co-chairs, then the treasurer and a secretary. So it's not just the 3 of us either, right? There's a group. So it's hard to have a nefarious cabal, I suppose, manipulating strings. We all have a lot of competing interests, even though we're all Greens, right? We all have the things we advocate for. But I think that it's a fair question to ask, because when you look at the other parties, they're not ashamed to come out and say things like, well, we can just choose our candidate and not even have debates or not even feature other people who are running. And yet they will have the gall, the audacity to come online and, like, in public spaces and tell us they promote democracy and they're the only chance to save it. Like, well, I don't know what they think they're saving, but it sure as hell isn't democracy.
Well,
I'd like to follow up on that a little bit. So my pathway back to the party came after 2015 and Bernie Sanders' campaign, and I had been supportive of Ralph Nader in 2000. I've always kind of checked in with my Green friends in New Jersey, but I kind of fell out of politics for a bit. But getting back in, I decided to get organized in New Jersey and then run for co-chair. But I kept my allegiances and my coalition work with other people, and there was other movements going on. And there's some people out there that still like to say there was something issues and stuff like that with 2020. We ran a very fair process in 2020. Our goal now is to even be more fair. And as the liaison for the PCSC, which is our Presidential Campaign Support Committee, we are adopting some new changes to the rules to make it more fair and objective. And we want to have an open primary process and a campaign process. If people want to file and run, some of the plans that they want to have forums, that the PCSC wants to hold forums around the 4 pillars and have them in key areas and actually make that highlight, like, the party. So you'll have, different places all over the country holding these forums, and Dr. West and Jasmine and whoever else is going to file, like Randy and everybody else who actually are filing will get to participate in those forums, and that's going to draw attention to the party and hopefully more dialogue and more issues. And honestly, it's going to make whoever our nominee a better candidate. And I think that's what we should all strive for. And, obviously this party is growing. The movement's going to be there growing. We're just doing our job in this role, in this capacity, to be ready for when everybody comes aboard and supports us. The last thing we want to do is have people come aboard and we don't have our foundation. So I think that's really what our goal is and we're striving for right now.
And the process keeps revolutionizing.
Off of that.
Yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
Oh, thank you. Yes, having forums for candidates that are focusing on very important issues that are being recorded. There's everything that Craig's saying, but it also shows people who may not even be old enough to vote, today or 5 years from now or 20 years from now, just because it's such an exciting time to be alive. We all hear about it. But in the information age, people can get educated that this is how democracy can actually really work. And just like Margaret said, that, this party is just saying, well, this is our candidate. There's no debate. They're just going to go and be on the ballot without having any input from, that party represents 150 million people. They didn't even have a debate. So, are they really the party of democracy? This is what democracy looks like. And it's just good that we're showing it with actions instead of just words like other parties do.
Do you guys ever get into like big fights on your virtual conferences or anything where like somebody's not green enough or too green or anything like that? Or do you guys kind of just try to do what is good for the people?
Mr. Representative of the people, so I'm not fighting anybody. I'm a volunteer. It doesn't pay to fight. Right?
It doesn't. But that said, so yeah, there's been look. The fact of the matter is the National Party itself is really young. We're a political party that's only been around for roughly 23 years. We're still a very baby party going through a lot of changes and figuring out who we are outside of our climate, perspective. So over the last few years, there was a pretty big fight in the party around inclusion of transgender people and LGBTQI plus rights in the party, and that led to some pretty acrimonious, discussion. To be honest with you, and the party came down on the right side of history in an overwhelming way, and like 93% of the voting delegates voted in favor of enshrining transgender rights and things into our platform, and that was awesome to do, but it was a painful process because we do, as Greens, value the consensus process. The thing is, we could take a vote just right off and then figure out what people like, but that's a contentious thing. It's not building together. A consensus-based process means I will sit down and try and find ways to move forward with people who are fundamentally opposed to things I believe are fundamental qualities. And if we can get past that, we can find the space here. It's better for everybody because we're all on board. We all agree, and now we're moving forward together again. Voting is the last resort in the Green Party if we can't sort it out through consensus. Now, that said, that means that it can be rough and tumble in our discussions because we're all passionate people. We're volunteers. You don't take these jobs on if you're not a passionate person and really believe in this stuff. And that means that, your temper can get up, right? You can say some uncouth things to your colleagues, maybe be a little short-tempered when otherwise you might not be. We all understand it, right? We're trying to save us. We're trying to save the planet. And it's not a joke, it's not a laughing matter, and this stuff all weighs heavy on us. So, it can feel frustrating sometimes when we're not feeling like we're being heard by our colleagues. So I think outside of that space, though, yeah, we're all here for the team. We're all trying to make this party better, not just for us while we're here, but for the people who come after us. I'm building something to last, and I know my colleagues are as well, which means I can't be focused just on my goals and my perspectives here. I want to build something, that's going to be a vehicle for many, many people to find political expression in.
And one more thing on that, and I'll say again, I've experienced and seen other movements that were really about opportunism, personal goals, things like that by other groups and organizations. And I feel bad that there's good, honest people that were trying to do good work, and they thought that was going to lead to something, and in the end, it wasn't. And they're being steered by a lone individual, and money not being reported properly, and money disappearing and ending up in their pocket. So that's why we've done the work for years on different levels to make sure that the Green Party stays what it's supposed to be, a decentralized party that represents everybody. And it's not about one person's agenda. It's not about that. It's about the collective, and it's about us working towards that goal of getting our candidates elected for office, because in the end, that's what a political party is here for. is to actually get elected for office and institute the changes that we're actually campaigning for and stand behind.
So based on one of the things that you just said, it kind of rolls into the next question pretty well. So I know you all aren't funded the same way that No Labels is, right? Like Joe Manchin and their little billionaire club and all that. How does the Green Party get most of its funding?
Individual donors. That's it. We don't take corporate money. We don't take PAC money at all. Individual donors. And in fact, individual donors are capped, I think, at like $3,500 a year to donate. So it's really, really restricted. And we're like, obviously, if we took money from PAC and corporate interests, we'd have a lot more money. That's the sheer fact of it. But, you know, we don't want to be a party that's bought and sold. If we were taking that money, there's no way we would have any credibility to talk about climate issues. You would know that we're being paid by the fossil fuel industry or whatever big company is paying to get us elected. It would just be such a sellout of our values but that's what we're up against, right? So it's small pocket people just like me, right? A disabled person on a fixed income donating $5 a month. You can too, listener, to the Green Party and change, you know, the future of our country. And I want to make sure like that's really clear. When I say change the future of the country, it's not overnight, right? It's not like, let's say, for the sake of discussion, that it's, you know, Jane Smith from Green Party candidate who gets elected. That doesn't change things just then, right? That doesn't just fix it. It's not magic. It's not like overnight thing. So this is a movement we're building. We're building towards a collective action of changing our future. We're just at the tip of it, the beginning. And I know it seems like, you know, things are moving fast, and they are, but we're a new political party. Every single person who volunteers can make a difference. You can start a local where you are. If you just need 5 people, contact your state party person. If there's not an active party in your state, you need 5 people. Contact the national. They will help you. We can do this, but we can't do it alone. We need volunteers. And that just means people showing up with a clipboard if you're in a state that needs signatures, and almost all of them do, right? And it's not hard. It's just time-consuming and physical, which means that some people can't do it because they're working class folks, right? So they work double jobs, and they have no time to go out and collect signatures and everything. So we rely on students. We rely on activists who take time, and disabled folks and retirees, people who, you know, are feeling the brunt of all these same issues in a very different way than some others. And, you know, I don't want to be doomy and gloomy about these things, but the Green Party represents an optimistic perspective. We're not sitting here saying there's nothing we can do to solve these problems. Quite the opposite. Our platform is all about, let's solve the problems, and here's how. You can help us.
And I was just going to add on that, I'm running again for town council in my town. I've been involved in my town for years, involved with my green team, environmental commission that way. And I think that's where you can affect changes on local. But there's some of us that obviously are going to focus on local level. There's some of us who are going to go for congressional level. There's some that are going to aspire for presidential level. And we all work cohesively together. We all support everybody. And, you know, like Margaret said, Margaret just ran for office recently too. And balancing that with life and managing the party and doing everything, it's a lot. We're all volunteers here. So we always appreciate and respect even independent media that elevates our campaigns and gets us out there. That's important too. And honestly, if we're elected, because we're not taking money, you know, I'm sitting here filling endorsement forms. I'm taking their endorsement, but I'm not taking their money if they're a PAC. But I'll take their logo and their seal and their endorsement, them supporting me. But I won't take a dime from them, because in the end, that's against everything. And if I'm elected, I'm going to be beholden to the community. I have friends in DSA, and I'm in New Jersey, New York area. And I'm like, so when's the last time AOC, Jamal Bowman have been to a DSA meeting? Do you guys get to caucus with them and talk to them and put your suggestions to their ear? They don't. They might have paid their dues, but they're not beholden or responsible back to that organization, and they're not holding them accountable. So what is the point of it then? You know, if they're not actually accountable to the values of what they're trying to propel, us as Greens, we are accountable. Because literally, we're asking for your $5, your $10, whatever you can do to support us. If I get elected, I'm coming back. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be responsible to everybody in my town, in my state, and even my national party that's going to donate to my campaign. So, you know, I'm here for everybody.
Craig, can I just ask you real quick, since you brought up DSA? Like, And like, I know they're pretty active in New York as well. So does the Green Party have, and like, do they communicate at all? I mean, I'm not just talking about AOC and like the bigger names inside of it, but or like Socialist Alternative, or I mean, like Kashama Sawant. I mean, like in Seattle, I mean, do you have like open interactive with other like-minded party positions, or like DSA or Socialist Alternative or anything like that?
There's definitely people that converse and have dual membership. There's some people at Socialist Party. There's some people that are DSA members as well, and there's a lot of core DSA groups that supported Left Unity in 2020. And I don't think everybody brings that up anymore. They forget Howie Hawkins ran a campaign to unify the left and literally go after Socialist Alternative, DSA, Socialist Party, get everybody to get on board and support his campaign. And I think that's the only way we're going to break through, is if we finally have that courage to do so. So I support the individual DSA people and the Greens working with DSA, because there's a huge sect that are ready to break off, but they still just don't have enough. They're still just shy, and it just gets shot down again. Like, they were just recently had their convention, and I know that it was a very contentious issue again. And I implore, if you have the ability to pay dues, be involved in both organizations. Do what you can, but I don't want anybody to pull themselves too thin or run themselves too ragged, But the goal is, yes, left unity. And I know that there's some good people in DSA that either work with the Greens or support the Greens, will vote with Greens, and they're doing their best in that organization to try to break off and get a larger movement going.
I can elaborate, or let's say amplify a bit on that too. From a national party perspective, we don't have like formal relationships with the other parties per se.
Mm-hmm.
I personally do. I'm friends with secretaries of DSA and CPUSA. I chat with them, just in a social way, that sort of thing, and that's interesting. But I think that, as Craig mentioned, Howie Hawkins ran the first unified left campaign in 100 years here in 2020. And so that was a really amazing thing to see. It was really inspiring too, because I think it's, again, an optimistic perspective that the Greens typically have about things. And so that made me feel really optimistic about the future, to be honest, because there's, I guess, maybe the sort of perception that the infighting of the left, and we'll eat ourselves, right? So we become very ineffective because we can't coalesce together. And I think that what is the thing which Howie demonstrated was, it's not that we can't coalesce together, it's that we need the right kind of person who's going to bring together these disparate views so we can rally around that kind of campaign, that kind of platform that represents our values and interests too. Obviously, I say obviously, and I knowing is that people are people, it isn't perhaps as obvious, but obviously, everyone here wants to do something about climate change. We don't want it to continue, but we disagree on how to go about fixing things. So sometimes those become entrenched political things for nothing more than fundraising efforts and clout. I mean, that's just the truth of it. And instead of collaboration and seeing how we could work together, I think that's not unintentional, as you kind of bringing this back to a point you were raising before. What do we do about like government agencies and private agencies that have been around since the 60s, which seek to destabilize leftist movements? We know it happens. There's historic evidence that it does. We know they're doing it today, so why aren't they doing it to us? I think reasonably we should expect that they are. Mm-hmm. When you run into weird anomalies and things in parties and stuff that don't make any sense whatsoever, it's probably a fair suspicion that the government is doing something there. I know it sounds a little paranoid and maybe conspiracy theory-ish or whatever, but it isn't. It's what they do. We know it. It's a truth and a fact. They do it in our country and other countries as well. So I think sometimes, some of the infighting on the left is ginned up. It's not really real. And if we could get past the media hype that keeps that going, we can actually get down to real comradeship and collaboration to work on changes that are going to save our country.
It's kind of like the way that they've been trying to run that dialogue between Bernie and Professor West in the last week or so, trying to get us to be focusing on wrong things and stuff. So.
Oh, Lord, it's been pretty deplorable to see what they've been doing against Dr. West's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, he's not the only Green candidate, so why aren't they doing the same stuff to the other Green candidates? Because they don't fear those other candidates. They know Dr. West has the kind of national attention that's going to call their policies in the check, and they can't just Russia. They can't do that crap. It's not going to work. They can play up Jill. They can brush away Howard, but they can't do that with Dr. West.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because that's another topic. We still get the Nader scare. And people don't realize in Florida, the ballot design, there was 7 other political party candidates in Florida alone that had more votes than the difference of total votes that cost that state to tilt to the election in that state. There was the 300,000 plus Democrats that voted for Bush. There was a faithless elector in, I think, Washington or D.C. or something like that. Then you had that Gore couldn't carry his home state. Clinton couldn't carry his state for Gore. But no, it's Ralph Nader. He was the bad guy. And they're still holding on, harping on that everywhere. And then poor Jill, when people seem to forget Gary Johnson was the other candidate that actually had 2 to 3 times more votes.
Way more votes. Way more votes.
They try to slam Jill for and not give any acknowledgement to Gary Johnson and the Libertarian campaign for president. So it just boggles my mind. And obviously, yes, we expect whoever the nominee, obviously Dr. West is in the crosshairs right now. They're going to try to do whatever they can to try to stymie any type of elevation of Green Party. Even when they talk about him, they don't even refer him as a Green Party candidate. They say third party candidate, and then they'll put Green Party in little letters under his name. But they don't want to say Green Party because I don't know if everybody remembers this, but when they had that CNN town hall with Jill Stein, that was crazy, millions upon millions of views and searches for the Green Party was happening live, and it was the best thing ever because nobody knew what was going on with Jill and Ajamu in 2016 until CNN elevated them, and then basically that was it. They were going to have another town hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to add something that going back to how this last week Bernie has been just basically trying to silence any type of focus on Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, and that's basically a sign of all the money going into the machine, whether it's agricultural corporations or weapons manufacturing. That money is going to one candidate that's not having a debate, and he's trying to basically silence any education on other views, and it's really, I'm sorry, just.
No, I know it's frustrating. And I didn't mean to interrupt you if you were.
No, it's okay.
I feel your pain. I mean, I hate the fact that we can essentially buy a candidate if we have enough money, regardless of what corporation we work for, whether it's the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, what you talked about as far as the media, .coms, hedge funds,
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
We could go on and on and on and on. So
I think there was one thing I wanted to just make that does distinct us, and that is that we do have standards. So I was bringing up agriculture for a reason, and it's because we have a value of knowing what goes into our bodies, our families' bodies. So we have a big foe, with Monsanto and other synthetic chemical producers that are putting fungicides, herbicides, pesticides onto everything that we ingest, and they don't want us to know what is going into our food, and how that could be even affecting the environment. From one crop that's non-organic to another crop that is organic. And I think our party, though, more so than any other party, will say that we do have a standard. So, like, eco-socialism also focuses on nutrition and health, and farming comes into play a lot in our party. And people don't realize like how big of a deal where our food comes from is, but it's the life of not just us, but also the whole food chain of our planet. So I think knowing that, just if we came in there and we just like that's it, you're gonna know where your food comes from. Like we're just gonna make it known that we support an amendment going forward for every foreign substance that goes into your food is going to be known to you. They will at least see that this is getting pushed, and why hasn't anybody else said anything about it? Things have to move, and then they have to turn, and no other party, even third parties, are going to move to try and make leaders as valuable as what ours are. And that's just really something that I think a lot of people feel but aren't aware of. I can go on, like with firearms. We want to make sure that there's control. We want to make sure that families aren't worrying about their kids going into school. This is just all on the back burners of everywhere else. And we're all alive right now tonight. All the listeners, and the moon is going. It's up above us, and we want to know that tomorrow it's going to be better than where it is today. So we keep our fingers on the pulse to see where we have the right policy, because we have 10 key values and we don't away from them. It's a good discipline, and it's just about valuing life.
So, you kind of led into question number 6. And again, I don't know if you guys all want to jump in one at a time, or if maybe just one of you answers, or how you want to do that, because it could be kind of a complicated question. I don't know how I always get to ask the complicated ones. So what are your short-term, midterm, and long-term goals for the Green Party? And then, maybe give me an idea how you plan to achieve them.
Well, I have thoughts on that, of course. So we have the National Party itself has a strategic plan that was voted on by the party. It was created over the course of a year, gathering data from every state party and all the members and stuff. So it's a really comprehensive plan. And I know it might be trite to say, but I want to say something like our short, medium, and long-term goals are to do the things that we said we would do in that strategic plan. So grow the membership base, right? Like grow sustaining donors to the party, run more candidates at the state level for like Congress, or state Congress and governor, mayoral levels, that sort of things, and develop potential long-term candidates for federal level office, Congress and Senate, and perhaps presidencies. So that's in general, in the nutshell, the plan. Now, how we get there, like that's always like basically, I want to say there's all kinds of ways, blah, blah, blah. And that's all true. But what it all comes down to is volunteers. We get there because people decide they want to get off their couch and help. They want to come to meetings. They want to show up and they want to do things. That's how we get what we want. We're not going to get it by sitting and wishing. We're going to have to get up and work for it. Many hands make light work of a heavy thing, right? So the more people who help, the easier it is for all of us, and the faster we get where we want to go.
I like that answer.
I'll add a little more on that. And there are some states that we need to have state parties. We need to reaffiliate certain states, and we need volunteers for that.
Just for our listeners, can you elaborate on that a little bit and tell me maybe what states you're missing?
Georgia, Alaska. Those are the main ones that I recall. Vermont, I believe there's an
Vermont.
effort going on now.
Yes.
Wow.
Arkansas.
Arkansas, okay.
Okay, that gives us a better idea, because now maybe if there's, one of our listeners in that state and they are kind of, saying, hey, these Green Party people, they might not be, too far off base. Let me give them a call, or, shoot an email. So Arkansas, Alaska, the Dakotas, Vermont. Yeah, that's a pretty good list.
That surprises me about Vermont. I would have thought Vermont would have. That's weird.
Well, you get all the people going over to Bernie.
That's the problem. That's why we lost Vermont years ago.
He.
But yeah, so remember, it goes hand in hand, because we're working for ballot access as well, and we also want these states to have representation. So one of the other goals was, I want to have a strong New Jersey Green Party, and I want to have a strong national party. So obviously, we also have caucuses too, and I want to have a strong Indigenous caucus. We've been working on that goal, and then the pandemic happened, and we kind of lost our ability to meet in person, have our meetings in person, and our annual meetings. So now we really want to focus on that. I think that's one of the goals that I put forth. I definitely want to strive to work towards, and that will help for sure with overall building this party. That's one of my little nuggets I want to work on, projects I want to work on. But we all do lots of different things. We all run for different seats in office too. So there's always working on the local level, trying to establish a base there, candidates there, state level, and obviously getting ready for congressional level. In New Jersey, we just endorsed a U.S. Senate candidate for next year, ahead of next year, which is the really good goal. So now we have our Senate candidate laid out. Now we're going to work in New Jersey to find 12 congressional candidates, and we already have 3 or 4 that have put their names in the hat already to run. So we're going to have our green wave, as we like to call it, in New Jersey, and we want to amplify that not in just New Jersey, but in every state. And I think that's what we're ready for, and we're gearing up for now.
So we did that here in Seattle as well. There were 5 Greens who ran for Seattle City Council. I was one of them. One of the Greens made it through the primary and is now in the general. So we actually have a chance for the first time to get a Green on Seattle City Council. And that's really important to us. We also have a really great congressional candidate here who was a lifelong Democrat. He worked for multiple campaigns and, in fact, was recently on the Marianne Williamson campaign. But we've been talking to him over and over for years now. And he always was sympathetic to our cause, but felt he just couldn't be a Green because, we just, weren't going to win. And we're like, well, you know what, though? Here's the thing. If you ran, we would win because these guys suck. And they do. And all they do is approve fossil fuel contracts and all the rest. As it turns out, Seattle has, or this part of my state, King County and all the rest, we've got a lot of defense contractors and big business here. So it's our Congress people are bought and sold by them. So it's hard to run in some of these places, right? But you can't, for where I live, you're not going to have a Democrat incumbent lose to a new Democratic challenger unless the DNC has decided to replace that Democratic person. So you're just stuck with them. No Republican is going to win here. So the only real challenge to these people come from real leftist policies. And I don't know if Craig and Joe, if y'all experienced this in your cities, but here, during the last POTUS election, I live in the working class poor district of Seattle. I live in South Seattle. And almost all of it voted Republican because they believe that the Democratic Party is now a party of the wealthy and elite and no longer for them. And this is a disaster for me as a person just generally, but also for them. They don't really realize there is a party out there, the Green Party, that represents working class people and is a party they could vote for. So it's why don't people know about us? You would think that for a party that advocates for legal marijuana everywhere, that more people would know about us, even if it were just that one thing, right? But they don't even know that. That's how effective the media is at shutting us out of the narrative and not giving us any real time to talk to the American people. Because if we did, they know that the American people would like what we have to say. Our policy is what the American people want. Because we are the American people. We wrote it, not business interests.
Well, it also shows a little bit about the complacency of the populace, I think. And that could be cynicism on my part.
Voter turnout is low. Like, here in my city, we had 25% voter turnout during the summer. Always a low turnout for our summer races, but 25%. This is the city council that's going to be deciding the future of Seattle for the next 10 years. And most people were apathetic.
Yeah.
It's disheartening, to be fair.
One thing I always say on a local level, I always try to say the Green Party. I think I used something once, like I got a little Play-Doh, and I'm like, it's the green Play-Doh. You can mold it into whatever you want. I just say, hey, look, there's some people that are all for campaigns and getting elected and working on campaigns. Great. There's some people that are great on policy and writing policy, and that's the stuff that we also need. It would be great to have your state Green parties offer counter legislation that should be elevated and proposing bills and referendum and all this stuff and bringing that ahead. I think you need that too. I'd say let's get artists. We need some artists that are willing to donate maybe some of their talent towards a campaign or towards a national party, come up with some cool ideas just to get imagery out there, like anything, whatever your talent is, you're more than welcome to join. Lawyers, we have a lot of times where so long story short, New Jersey, we got challenged a few years ago for our assembly candidate down in one of the counties. So in New Jersey, the way it works is the Democrats have a good stronghold on your higher up offices. The local stuff is mainly Republican. Once you get to your county level, it's mainly Democrat, and then your state levels is obviously mostly Democrat. So they'll try to challenge your petition. So we literally had 24 hours. We had to scramble to find a lawyer. We had to basically be on a Zoom call, take off our whole day from work, and literally go signature by signature with them against the challenge. So we survived the challenge. Our candidate then appeared on the ballot. But yeah, I mean, like lawyers, anybody, I'm telling you, anybody is always welcome and appreciated towards the movement, towards this party, because we're going to need everybody's talents and time, and we respect it and welcome it.
So for the last, at least of the standardized questions, if you could change or tweak anything from the current political process to make it better for voters, candidates, or the party, what would you tweak?
Well, I think ranked choice voting and proportional representation, election reform, have publicly funded campaigns, make election day a national holiday, and everyone can build off of that.
So I think mail-in voting is something we should implement all across the country. We do it here in Washington State. The military has done it since the 1880s. Obviously, it's fine. There's no worries with it whatsoever. And I think it really makes it easy. Here in Washington, we actually have enacted a lot of great voter reform laws, and I wish we did this in other states. I get a ballot in the mail 2 weeks before I get a brochure, which has all the candidates in it and their candidate statements. And I can just read that for myself, and then I have it all right in front of me, and I can make my vote, and it goes free back through ballot boxes, the normal mail, whatever it is. And I don't have to really go to a polling place. I don't have to stand in line, which are all big burdens, not necessarily to somebody who has the time, but to people who work. They can't afford to just go stand 8 hours in a voting line, perhaps, potentially, right? You don't know how long it's going to be. And so without mail-in voting, we have to have days off so people can vote. That's a thing that has to happen. We can have mail-in voting, though. It works just fine. And the claims of fraud and stuff, these are all pretty much red herrings that never bear out any statistical impact on our elections. And I think we just need to sort of understand that there's a reason this archaic voting system is kept in place. And it's not because it's good. It's just because it keeps the powers and be in power.
And I'll just add on top of that, in line with that same-day registration, and in 2020, I was a co-founding member of Voter Choice New Jersey, which is our state organization working for ranked choice voting. And they've been going town by town to get support for referendum. And they have Hoboken already, and Jersey City now is the next big target, and they're this close to voting on it to support ranked choice voting. And that honestly also eliminates some of this whole machine talk of like the ballot lines and and people saying they want to break up the ballot lines that exist. If you support RCV, it automatically does that. So it's more of an approachable topic. But even ballot drop-off boxes. I was out there in the streets in 2020 fighting to get my town to have a drop-off box, and they were only going to put it in certain counties. And I'm like, no, it needs to be there are towns in certain counties. I'm like, no, every town should have a drop-off box, especially if there's a worldwide pandemic going on. But there's so much to work on any level. But yeah, we totally are behind it. A lot of people don't realize the Greens are involved in all this other movement work, and we're there doing what we can, obviously, in certain roles that we can't always talk about, but we're there for you and doing
Well,
work.
push for VPN too. Let's vote electronically from the house. I don't want to write a bunch of shit down. I want to click a couple of buttons on my phone.
One more thing I forgot, during the pandemic, New Jersey started electronic signature gathering for petitions.
Nice.
And it was in the pandemic, and then it went away. Why did it have to go away? You can still verify the signatures. It was great. It was great. I blew up a sign and I carried it door to door with a barcode so that they can scan from their door safely, and then they went right to the link to fill out the petition. Why can't every other state, especially states like Joey's, which New York now you have to collect 40,000 plus signatures now in like a 2-month window? It's crazy, with the barriers. And again, it's the Democratic Party people that put the barriers up. The most undemocratic policies are by Democrats. It's so crazy.
You guys can still write in New York and New Jersey if you're not on the ballot, though, right? Like if you managed to somehow get the advertising out to say, hey, you can vote for us, but you've got to write it in. We're not technically on the ballot. You guys can still get voted in that way, right?
Margaret brought up an issue that actually did happen locally, where in 2020, a lot of voters who unbeknownst to them, in 2020, we had the pandemic. Third party lost their ballot access, but most of the people weren't paying attention, and they went ahead and just didn't have any idea that it was by design that the Democrats, Jay Jacobs, the chairperson of the Democratic Party of New York, and Governor Cuomo, through the COVID budget, got all of the genuine third parties off of the ballot line. But what ended up happening is that all the Democrats basically lost their re-election campaigns anyways, because of a lot of misinformation campaigns coming out. So, Brian, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure that it was still okay for someone to write someone in. So if you had a Green Party candidate for whatever...
Howie Hawkins was actually running for governor. He was running for president. But in 2022, he ran again for governor, and he did a write-in campaign. So that was where I was trying to go with that. Even though he tried to keep our ballot access in 2020 in New York State by getting the new Cuomo requirements that are worse than getting a ballot line in Moscow, Russia, he still tried to run in 2020 and then in 2022 again for governor to get our ballot line back.
What happened in North Carolina in 22? Wasn't there something where like the Democratic Party got the names of all these people that signed the petition for the Green Party, and they started calling them up trying to get them to retract their name? I mean that.
Oh, more than that, they visit them at their home with petitions, like trying to get them to sign a different thing, saying they were tricked to sign in the Green Party thing. And oh yeah, I actually really didn't mean that. I mean this stuff. We sued them. Of course, they fought back and they lost. The judge ruled all of what they did illegal and got our candidate Matthew Ho on the ballot. But like, yeah, that was all videotaped. People had their phones out. Like, what? Are you really trying to do this? I was pretty shocked to see it, to be honest with you. But like, if you outside of the Green Party, we know that there's a lot of political chicanery that goes on in some of the counties in North Carolina, especially along the border with South Carolina. And that isn't probably news to people who are following that situation there. But, that's not the first time or only time they've done it. In fact, in 2020, they falsely filed a candidate in Montana as a Green. And then once they got that person registered as a Green, that person quit the Greens and then became a Democrat to give them all their votes and everything, and took the party line from us there. But the party line and stuff, if we're not on the ballot, we do run as independents, and you can obviously write in the people, but there's a reason why we're not on the ballot, and a lot of it is ballot access laws that kick us off that we were already on, right? But another one, and this is one of those kind of weird things too, and this is kind of a thing you see, I guess, leveled at a lot of Greens, like, where are you during the rest of the years? Why do you only run a POTUS candidate that can't win? Okay, well, there's complicated technical reasons for it, but here's the thing about that. If you want your down ballot candidates for any race to be listed on your ballot as a person in your party, most states require your POTUS candidate to be running on more than 35 state ballots as that candidate. And if they aren't, your candidates get listed as independent, even if you already had ballot access. So we have to run a POTUS candidate every 4 years so our down ballot candidates can be on the ballot as Greens. This is another shitty thing that they do to us here. And it's weird and complicated because it's not explained, and it leads to this exact same, bogus allegation every year. You only run once every 4 years. We don't ever hear back you the rest of the time. That is not the case. We have to run a POTUS candidate even when we think we won't win. But this goes back to another particular sort of perspective, right? We, the workers, the people, we have to have our own candidates. We have to stand them up against the corporate duopoly so they can articulate our points and our perspectives so the people can hear it. It doesn't matter if we win or lose in that space. We're trying to affect the zeitgeist, right? Shift the Overton window into a green climate perspective. And on a personal level, I don't care if I win as long as the people in charge do the things that need to be done. I don't have to be the one to do it, right? So I think that's, for a lot of Greens, that's where we are with that. We just want the thing fixed. And so I think that's a lot of the thing. And there's a weird thing too here, because this allegation, right, leads to another thing. Well, you don't run any other candidates. But then if you're a candidate like I was, Craig and Joey have been, what will happen is when you're out on the campaign trail, they will then push back on you like, oh, you're going to be stealing the vote away, like from someone who doesn't probably going to get it anyway, right? This kind of pushback on you where they think you don't run any time to begin with, but then when you do run, they shame you for doing it. Like, how dare you actually run a campaign at any other time? And I think that, there's this presumptive arrogance amongst the Democrats that somehow or another our votes belong to them by default, and somehow the Green Party is stealing them away. That's not even remotely true. Greens would overwhelmingly not vote if there was not a Green candidate to vote for. Why would we vote for things we don't want? That makes no sense to me. I've never understood it. I didn't grow up in the United States. I grew up in a different country that had a different process about doing democracy. And I was taught that you vote for what you want because that's how you get it. The United States votes differently. It's vote against what you fear. And this is a policy of fear. That's what it always is, right? That's why, oh, no, we can't let Trump. It's the most important election. But they said the same thing about Obama and Biden on the other side, right? Like, it's just lousy, crappy fear-mongering that doesn't do anything for anybody.
There will always be a boogie person, boogeyman, scary man, orange man, whatever man, maybe even Ivanka down the road. Yeah, many worries, but
that's a negative ghostwriter.
have it happen. But,
Pattern is full.
you know, and we all support actions and everything with the campaigns, but I think the main thing is just staying true to your convictions. A lot of cities are one party controlled, so those people always say, "Oh, our system is only okay." Great. If you're always seeing a Democrat elected, then why can't we be the alternate party? Right? You don't need the Republicans. Who cares? It'll just be the Democrat and the Green then. Just change the mindset of people. And I think the only way is by staying committed to our values and running and trying to win and break through. And if not, yeah, look, you get watered down Green Party policies that the Democrats finally support for a half minute, like a Green New Deal, watered down. It only takes 15 years before they decide to water down our stuff and come out with some version of it. But we're going to be doing our job. We're going to keep running hard on our issues, and we're going to keep moving the Overton window. That was the whole point.
Right. I want to be cognizant of your time. I know that we started 10 or 15 minutes late. I know that it's coming up on 1 o'clock in the morning, your time. I had one more question. I know Darren has at least one more question. You guys have time for maybe 10, 15 more minutes?
I do. I'm out in Seattle, so it's still pretty early for me.
You want to go first?
You go first.
So, the Green New Deal. I don't want to beat up on you guys because for the most part, I love everything that was in there. But it seems like a lot of the goals are maybe over ambitious, especially the zero carbon emissions by 2030. Shit, by the time the next presidential election comes up, we're only a little over 6 years away. So that seems really ambitious to me. Where do you guys stand on that? And I guess how is it that the greater forces in the Green Party are hoping to achieve the goals in the Green New Deal?
I think that humanity is really relying on the Green New Deal to work, because what other option do we have that will keep us from just perpetuating this utter catastrophe even worse? We got humans on the moon in, was it 8 years? And, we've achieved a lot of technological advancements, and we can scale larger. I'm just going to say that we certainly can get to zero emissions by 2030, but it would take a conscious government to get us there. And so I'm an optimist. I'm a father, and why would I want to go into something that I'm afraid of when I know this would work and would help?
No, I'm not saying that it won't help. What I'm trying to figure out is how we're going to accomplish it. Because I agree, if we get to zero emissions, it will help. But the fact is, if we move to electricity uses copper, which means that copper has to be mined. If we are building mass transit, that means that railroad ties have to be cut and steel has to be mined. If you're using wind farms, those things are just a huge burden on the environment, depending on where you put them. I'm not saying that there's no benefit, but what I'm getting at is that we've got to ask ourselves at what cost, and can we get there by 2030?
That's good.
I appreciate this, and I actually did listen to the recent podcast that you had covered, and some of the concerns about the materials and the impacts on wildlife and things like that, I think it does require a bold, ambitious. You need to have a presidential candidate that's going to use a lot of executive authority, but you also will need to have a Congress and Senate. We have to still lead by this policy and go to the extremes for it. How is it implemented? That obviously is left to be held. But yes, if we were magically able to elect and win and pull this off, it would be a mass mobilization, like moving away from military. We were able to create the bomb and literally, and move military in a different way. There's got to be a way to do it the other way in terms of preserving mankind and humanity. And I think that sharing information with countries, sharing technology with countries, truly working on reducing, reusing, recycling minerals and components, making these renewables of some sort of recycled materials has to be implemented too, because the industry is corrupt. Obama, Biden, Podesta, who's in green energy, his family they're entrenched in it. It's corrupt. So yes, it is also a fallacy of capitalism. So that's why, yes, the only way to truly implement it is by taking a bold step, by electing a green to the presidency and to the Congress and to the Senate. And that's the only way you're going to get that step forward. But yeah, it's a bold step, and we're getting, the time is running out. The time is always running out. But eventually somebody's going to stand up, and you're going to have the masses stand up and say, this is the time. And I think this is the time.
I agree. Yeah. To reframe the question or kind of contextualize it back into the scenario, like what if we won the presidency and we could just do whatever we wanted, right? If that were the scenario and we could do that, I think the appropriate plan would be to use the National Defense Authorization Act and to nationalize fossil fuel industries, take them over, that they've proven that they are just a destructor to the planet. We cannot allow that to continue. We are in charge, not them. We need to really consider what it means to have these international banks financing all this fossil fuel extraction. We can apply sanctions to those banks and cut off that funding. We're not helpless in this fight at all at the executive level. What we lack is political will. Yeah, it seems ambitious to say in 7 years we could get down to carbon neutral. And that might be the case, because when we first said we need to be there by 2030, it was 7 years ago. So that, we've squandered our time, and now we're still up against that deadline, right? That's not changing. That crossing the 1.5C threshold of 2030, that's not going to move. In fact, it's getting closer. So we're against the moving target. But we have to be serious about this. If we thought there was an existential threat to our national survival, then we would use every asset at our means, right? Everything to stop it. And that would mean nationalizing this industry and making them stop what they're doing. And just to kind of swing back to this just a second ago, but in the conversation about the whole foreign policy thing, we're well aware that the United States military is the largest polluter in the world, like as an entity. And we want to reduce that. So how would you go about reducing pollution in the military and all the rest of this kind of stuff? There's a lot of good ideas about it, but I would offer this bold suggestion to you. We don't need the Marines. Get rid of the Marines, fold them into the Navy. We have the 4 remaining armed service branches. We've never done an amphibious landing since Incheon, except for that disaster out in Ethiopia, which was obviously poorly planned and another demonstration of why they shouldn't be in service. And when we look at what happened in Iraq, the war crimes that were committed against the civilians happened when the Marines had taken over from the regular military units. This is all really well explained in threat reduction analysis and things, because big armored tanks people don't want to fight against, so they are passively pacified. Whereas when that doesn't happen, there's all kinds of militant activity. Despite my abhorrence of war and my belief that we should never be in it, if it happens, we need to do everything we can to lessen civilian casualties and how it impacts them. And we have to be serious about this stuff. It's not a joke. This isn't, I know money is serious stuff and billions and billions of dollars, right? But these are people's lives, and you can't replace it. I can replace almost anything with money except a person. And I think that's what we need to prioritize. I don't care about these companies, survival. Why should fossil fuel companies be getting subsidies when folks in Hawaii are getting $700? Are you kidding me? What an insult! If I were collectively Hawaii, I would send that money back with a big fuck you to the Biden administration. Like, what the hell? That's just insulting on so many levels. It's on, and where to even go with that? But look, there's a lot we could do as Greens. There really is. And I know the 2030 table is ambitious. It has to be. We're up against that kind of timeline, right? We squandered a bunch of time. So the best time to have done it was then. The next best time is now. And there's no time to wait.
I agree with you. I just wanted to see if maybe from somewhere inside the party, if you had a better idea of how you were going to accomplish it. Because I read most of it. And I love what you guys said about the subsidies as far as farming and big timber and all of that stuff. My only concern was the zero emissions thing. But I agree with you. We are fucked anyway. But
just as an outro.
I just wanted to also.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you look at the $870 billion budget to the Defense Department, they're auditing and keeping track of just about every single bullet that's fired, every round, because it's got to be reported on. We're not even reporting on every single piece of garbage that goes out, and we could honestly transfer the energy that's going into what we're investing energy or money, it's kind of the same, into the Defense Department, and actually put it into defending the environment. We could actually put it into putting it. We do need to do a better job at recycling photovoltaic panels, and without enough energy invested into that research, it's not going to happen fast enough. And what we're seeing today is not happening fast enough. And I'll just kind of go. This is an analogy, but 2016, we could have had a president who was a medical practitioner during COVID, and a lot of people didn't look at Jill Stein as serious. But then once COVID happened, the president that we had certainly didn't look very serious, and neither did the person who was runner-up. And just again, telling you how gravely important it is that we need a serious investment into a process that's going to get us to zero emissions as fast as we possibly can. And it's not about the interest of the businesses. It's or the bottom line. It's the bottom line of the earth.
All right, so
thanks for letting me cut you off.
Of course, no, we're good, absolutely. Just as an outro, when there was one thing that was said when it was mentioned that when they did the town hall with Jill Stein in 2016, and they put Green Party along the bottom, like MSNBC and CNN learned from their perspective, a valuable lesson that they opened the floodgates to where a lot of people started looking at the Green Party. And since then, like you've also suggested, when they talk about Cornel West right now, they don't refer to him as a Green Party candidate. They refer to him as a third party candidate. Just as like an outro, and Brian and I are both pretty sympathetic to this position, just because they're going to keep saying that it's a throwaway vote, no matter what. Just make a really concrete statement about why it's not a throwaway vote, why people need to be looking at these other than just, and not just, obviously the clear reason in this instance is that our survival depends on internalizing certain things that you're trying to put forward. But because they're just going to keep saying it. So over and over and over again, it's a talking point over and over and over again. What do people need to understand about the Green Party or any, other viable options in terms of political parties?
I guess I'll go first. So why is it that the last person that was able to break through that ceiling was Ross Perot. Why can't everybody else that's supposed to be the more educated, informed, progressive, Democrat, leftist, socialist, realize that the time is for left unity, and this is the time. We've said Jill Stein did a great job. Howie did a great job of what he could in the pandemic, and every obstacle thrown at him in the middle of the pandemic. This is the time. The 2024 race is the time. And it's not just about the presidency. It's going to be a mass movement. Every state is going to need congressional Senate candidates, too, to ride that wave. We're going to need local and state candidates to ride that wave. And I think it's just enough agitation and frustration for people that sit at home and don't see anybody that they can agree with, that appeals to them, that now is the time to vote and come out. We're also appealing to all those millions upon millions of voters that sit out elections, and that's the thing. We would love to have a general strike. We support general strikes. We support all these labor movements and labor actions going on. This is the best time. But you also need to support a party that's going to have your back through it, too. Because all these changes that you get through, if you just elect the same watered-down Democrats, you're not going to get any change. It's just incrementalism. So this is the time.
Joey, would you like to go? I have thoughts, too. Of course I do. I always do.
Okay, mine's not so long. Yeah, so I'll just quickly say that you see the earth, you see the world, and look at the country that has the perfect government in it. And there isn't one. And we can just reasonably say, maybe capitalism isn't the best. Maybe there are aspects of it that are important, some that aren't. Maybe there's socialism. Maybe that's not the best, but maybe there's aspects of that. Standards are important. There's a lot of educated philosophers who've created a lot of work, and just go back to having a bottom-up system where we value a lot of voices, and it's not like there's so much voices we don't get anything done. We have an incredible platform. We're ready to go, and you're not going to have any change if you go with the other duopoly parties. And I'm a Green, so I'm here.
Cheers.
All right, Margaret, take it over. Knock him out.
So how there's a lot of ways that one could consider why maybe voting for a candidate you think isn't going to win would be a wasted vote. And I can't really address that because those are really individual things. But what I can tell you is why it isn't a wasted vote. So you should vote for candidates that represent what you want. If you want to have free health care, you have to vote for a candidate that is offering that to you. You won't get it if you don't vote for that person. I understand they might not win, but that's what I want, so I'm going to vote for it. And if enough of us vote for what we want, we'll win. Our candidate will win, and then we'll get what we want. If we vote for the lesser evil, we get less and we get evil every time. That's all that happens. I'm tired of getting less, and I'm tired of getting evil. If any of their policies over the last 60 years were worked, remember these people have all been in power for roughly this last 50 years or so. If any of their policies would have fixed the situation, they would have already fixed them by now. And they cannot, and they will not. It's not because these are bad people. It's because their policies are bad. They cannot fix this problem. We need different policies and different people to do it. And again, so third party, sure. But I mean, anybody should run for office. It starts at the local level. People think that it's just about the presidency or something, but let me assure you, your local school board has more impact on your day-to-day life than the congressman that you think is going to be impacting your day-to-day life. That's the truth. If you want to control the politics in your neighborhood and what's going on, run for office. If you want to change it, you'll get your name out there, you'll start moving up, you can be a mayor somewhere and change the policies in your town. That's how it works. If you vote for people who have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo, and we know they do, the DNC and RNC, the political wings, if you will, of the party, do that, right? That's what they do. They maintain the party status. They make sure that Congress people call constituents and do fundraising all the time rather than work on policies. That's why they have to have so many staffers who read all the policies and tell them what they say. It's a disaster. The way the whole system is set up is just wrong, and we're not going to change it if we vote for the same folks doing the same stuff. And I get how the whole argument, well, if we vote for a green person, then our vote is just wasted or something like that. That isn't how it works. It's not like that. We're building a movement that has an end goal, not just this election, but it's in the future. We have to build step by step. That means crossing the 5% threshold, then the 18% threshold to get on the ballot in every state automatically, to get matching federal funds. You might not know this, but if you cross the 5% threshold automatically, you are automatically in the next cycle added on all the ballots. We don't have to do any of the ballot access work. We have to do all of the time. I would honestly tell you that most of our fucking work in the party is about ballot access. But if we cross that threshold once, that stops that for the rest of our time as a party. It never undoes itself. We only have to cross it once. The reason it didn't happen with Ross Perot is because he ran as an independent. And he wasn't in a party, so that party didn't get across. This is on purpose, right? This is done to us as a citizenry. This is done to us as a polity, and we need to be clear-minded about it. I want you to vote for the things you want. If you want free health care, vote for it. If you want to stop war overseas, vote for the candidate who's going to stop that. If you want to stop fracking, vote for the candidate who's going to stop that. There is no point in voting for somebody just because you are afraid. Fear, I'm going to paraphrase this. Sorry, I don't mean, you might have to edit this bit, but fear is the mind killer. And I think that too many people have let themselves just be destroyed in their mind. They've lost their courage and they've lost their political will. And if anything, standing up and running candidates who are strong, moral, and ethical people shows people they can be brave again. They have somebody they can rally behind. They have a policy and a position that they believe in and they support. It's not just half-assed from the couch kind of stuff. It's real. It's a real grassroots movement supporting the people in the working class. And I think that when you can make that connection with people, make them feel it, right, for real, like it's not just some lip service bullshit, it'll motivate them. They get off the couch and they get inspired to be political activists. That happened for me. It happened for all of us in this room right now. Well, collectively, it took something reached us and we got motivated. We got off the couch and we started to work. And it will happen for everybody. We have to vote for the people we want. That's the long and the short of it. It's not wasted because you don't win, right? It's not a wasted game just because you don't win the game. You don't win every game. You still try hard and you still try to win every single time.
Well, we're not going to edit anything. We never edit anything, but we're certainly not going to edit out a reference to Dune. So.
Yeah, fair.
So the only editing process that is going to take place because of the technological issues that we had tonight is I've got to jump that recording from my phone to the PC. So once I get everything posted, I'll send you guys a link to the show so that you can listen to it, share it with your friends, whatever you want to do. Did you have any questions for us?
On my side, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you giving us a chance to be on and talk about stuff.
Likewise. Craig, Joey, Margaret, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And we will definitely be in touch. You'll be getting a link probably tomorrow.
Right on.
Cool. All right.
Bye, y'all.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Peace. Bye.
Dude.
What? Oh, I should probably stop mine too.